OOP paradigm is like how this is the communication done with the data and functions, or the organization of the data and functions in OOP is done. So we can see here we have object A, object B, and object C. In that we can see it is encapsulated into the data and functions. So data and functions for the object A, data and functions for object B, data and functions for the object C. All this can be communicated between through the each other object through only functions. So we cannot directly use the data of object A or object B or object C. This has to be used via functions or the methods of that particular class. So OOP paradigm is explained in this figure as the data and functions in OOP, how this can be communicated through the functions. All right, this is what our OOP paradigm. Then next is the fundamentals of object oriented programming. Now look here, we are going to one by one through the fundamentals of object oriented programming. So many times we have used the namespace. So what is this namespace? We'll look first. Okay, so namespace or namespaces. This is the one of the thing which we use. A namespace is a declarative region that provides a scope to the identifiers, the names of types or the function variables, etc. inside it. So actually namespaces are, it includes all the C++ standard libraries, because we are basically focusing on C++ languages. So we'll see that using namespace standard we write there. So it includes all C++ standard libraries in that. The meaning is that. Similarly, namespaces are used to organize the code into the logical groups, okay, and to prevent name collisions that can occur, especially when your code base includes the multiple libraries. So for example, using namespace standard std, using namespace standard, here the std is the namespace where ANSI C++ standard class libraries are defined. So whenever we are writing a program, we are using the namespace standard in above our code, right? So here that means what is std here? Std after semicolon is represented. It is meaning is that the namespace where ANSI C++ standard class libraries are defined for that particular namespace. Okay, so we can say that namespace is used to define a scope where the identifiers like variables, functions, classes, etc. are declared there. And the main purpose of using the namespace is to prevent the ambiguity that may occur where the two identifiers have the same name. Okay, so this is what the using the namespace. Now, how to use the namespace? Defining the namespace, syntax is given namespace underscore whatever the namespace you are writing the name for that, and declaring the code over here, which includes the classes or functions, methods, and the main method, etc. So defining the namespace, that is our first task. So here we can see how the our fundamental of the object oriented programming, how we can include our namespace standard, and we can have the different example for it. Just look on the screen and find out how is it is created. Okay, have you seen this? Using the namespace standard, the namespace, word space, name is given first space. Then we are calling the void function and we are writing the cout inside first space. Cout and cin, we are using this. This is the again the object of the this particular IOStream class. So we have include here the include IOStream class, IOStream for the input output streams. So in this case, we are organizing using the namespace standard, and then we are giving the namespace first space as a name. In that first space, we are using this code void function. Similarly, this is making the use of the first space namespace. Then second time, the second namespace is used here, namespace second underscore space. In that again the same name function, void function is used. We can use this because the namespace is different one here. Now, when we are writing the main function which can now use the different namespace. Now different namespace standard in this terms, the firstly we are calling the function from first namespace, that is the first space, because we are using the function. Now compiler has to tell which function. So compiler has to tell which function, and it will now give the use of the double colons, that is what the called as scope resolution operator, and we are using that scope resolution operator to access the function from the first space. Now when we run this program here, the first space function will be called out and the control jumps to here cout statement inside the first space. Okay, and coming to the next line, because end L is given. Similarly, next time when the compiler comes to second space and the scope resolution operator and the function calling. Now the name is same, but it has to tell the compiler this is a second space function. So it jumps to this and execute this function. So it will execute which function, come out with the void function and see out now inside the second space, and coming to the next line because end L is given. Is it clear? How is the namespace used? Different namespaces with the same type of functions or same type of variable, how we can declare using the different namespace. This is actually namespace concept. Okay, a very the we need to write two statements whenever we write our program. Okay, so we have to write first statement is hash include iostream, because within this iostream we know that cout cin, otherwise it will not work. For that purpose we have to write this first statement, but for using namespace standard means for the globally accessing we std, okay, for namespace standard. But when we are saying I want to use the same type of function, same type of variables in my program scope, but program scopes are different for different namespace I have written. That's why I can call it using the function same name, but compiler has to tell from which namespace. So this is one of the small concept. Okay, you can actually do it by practical, and it will be clear. Okay, do it practically, it will be clear. Now coming to the next. Actually, we are going to start one by one namespace. I have given this, started with the namespace. Now we are going to focus to the objects. What are the objects? So objects are the basic runtime entities in an object-oriented system. Without object, nothing is done. Okay. So whenever we want to access anything, we have to declare the objects of that particular class. When a program is executed, the objects interact by sending the messages to one another. Okay, program has to execute it with the help of the message passing, and message passing is done with the help of object, and the message passing is done through the member functions. So objects take up space in the memory. Objects, whenever objects are created, they will take a space in the memory, right? So again there are to be a concepts like object whenever created, we can have a constructor called. The constructor will then it will initialize the space in the memory. This is a by default it is done. Okay, we are going to see again in the next part constructor. Right now just I'm telling the objects takes part in or the creating the memory. So whenever n number of objects we create, n number of spaces created in memory. So we can create n number of objects belonging to that particular class. The class is the only blueprint. Okay, so we have class next concept. One by one we are going to see everything, and we are writing the program also on that concept. Okay, so right now we are going to have the object example. So we have to just write a class. For example, a class name is example, and we are writing the member data and member function of that. And because we are looking for the object, so example name of the class and the object of that class and the semicolon, this will create object of class example. This will create